Judgment in 2010 London Borough of Richmond. Links in the description. During the course of these care proceedings, an issue arose as to the validity of hair testing for the purposes of seeking to establish whether a parent has consumed alcohol and, if so, to what extent. It is very regrettable that this issue was not resolved earlier, because it has resulted in the determination of these care proceedings, by an agreed supervision order, being delayed by some 8 months. This has, with hindsight, manifestly not been in the interests of the children the subject of these proceedings. For this reason, and because the issues surrounding hair testing in connection with the consumption of alcoholic beverages are of wider interest, I am giving this public judgment which addresses only these latter issues. Additionally, and unusually, the companies which have carried out the tests in this case, Trimega Laboratories Limited and Trichotech, were given permission to intervene on the issue of the hair strand test results. Only Trimega have taken advantage of this opportunity, and at this hearing they have been represented. As I have said, this judgment deals with the testing of hair for the purposes of expert evidence being provided to the court on the consumption of alcoholic beverages. While hair analysis for the use of drugs other than alcohol has been used for many years, hair testing specifically for alcohol use is a relatively recent and developing science, at least in the field of forensic toxicology. It is clearly particularly important when new scientific tests are being used for forensic purposes that they have a sound basis which makes it appropriate for the results to be used in court proceedings, and which is sufficiently explained so that the court and the parties have a full understanding of the evidential basis both of the tests themselves and of any opinions based on the interpretation of the results of such tests. Having summarized the effect of the evidence given in this case, I propose briefly to summarize the evidence itself. Alcohol cannot be detected directly in hair. However, when it is metabolized, the body produces two minor metabolites, namely ethyl glucuronide, ETG, and fatty acid ethyl esters, FAEs. These metabolites are incorporated in and can be measured in hair. However, the fact that either ETG and/or FAEs are found to be present in hair in measurable quantities does not mean that the subject of the test has consumed alcohol. Hair can be tested to establish the concentration of these minor metabolites present in the sample. It is a complex process using either gas chromatography mass spectrometry or liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. Research has shown that there is a relationship between alcohol consumption and the concentration of these markers in hair. There are many factors which will affect the level of the concentration of the markers, as a result of which there is no direct correlation between alcohol consumption and the level of concentration of the markers. However, research has shown that there is sufficient of a relationship to justify using these markers to identify those who abuse alcohol. The tests have been designed to establish a pattern of drinking over a period of time and have not been designed, for example, to test for a single episode of drinking. The amount of either ETG or FAEs present are averaged for the whole period tested. Nor, more importantly, have they been designed to establish abstinence or social drinking. Abstinence cannot be established by means of these tests because research has shown that even those who have not consumed alcoholic drinks can test positive for both ETG and FAEs. On the 2nd of September 2009, a sample of the mother's hair was taken. This was then tested on the 4th of September by Trichotech. A 3 cm section of the sample was cut into 3 1 cm segments, and each segment was separately tested for the presence of ETG. ETG was not detected in the 2 older segments but was detected in the newest segment. The amount detected was 0.022 nanograms per milligram, 22 pg a milligram, of hair. A report was provided in the form of a Criminal Justice Act witness statement. It can be seen that this statement did not provide a wholly clear picture of what was being said could be deduced from the discovery of 0.022 ing milligram of ETG in one segment of the mother's hair. It was said that the result was consistent with the use of alcohol, but it was then also said that ETG results can be suggestive of alcohol use or abstinence. A further test was then undertaken, at the mother's request, by Trimega. A sample of hair was collected on the 22nd of October 2009. A 6 cm segment was tested for FAEs. The concentration detected was an average of 0.03 ing a milligram. In a certificate of analysis, this was described as a negative result, explained as meaning a negative result indicates no evidence of frequent excessive alcohol consumption in the fatty acid ethyl esters. This interpretation was confirmed in a witness statement. It was later said by Trimega that the negative results indicated abstention or virtual abstention during this 6-month period, i.e. mid-April to mid-October. In addition, although unknown to any of the parties until this hearing, a 3 cm section had also been analyzed for the presence of Hg. This was done for the laboratory's own purposes. The result was 1.8 pg/mg. This is a negative result. At this level the process is such that there exists a very wide margin of error. The result of 1.8 pg/mg is below the level of quantification. It is regrettable that this result was not made available to the parties, as it might have affected the course of these proceedings. In October 2009 the parties in these proceedings were, therefore, faced with one test result which was said to be consistent with the consumption of alcohol in the period between the end of July and the end of August 2009, and another test result which was said to indicate abstention or virtual abstention. As a result of the differences between the test results and also because of uncertainty as to what propositions it was being said the results supported, the mother's solicitors sent a number of written questions to both Trimega and Trichotech. In their response, Trimega, among other things, state that they are not aware of any test which can demonstrate complete abstinence, and that FAE alcohol tests can never produce a zero result, as the body absorbs small amounts of ethanol from the environment and from some types of food. It is also said that it is scientifically unsound to test hair for the presence of Hg on a month-by-month basis, i.e. by 1 cm segments, because of the effect of Hg-laden sweat on the more mature sections of hair. As referred to earlier, Trimega also stated that their test results of the mother's hair indicated abstinence or virtual abstinence. The mother's hair was further tested by Trimega for the presence of FAEs in February 2010 and for FAEs and Hg in May and July 2010. The results were all negative, meaning that there was no evidence of frequent excessive alcohol consumption. This sample, again unknown to the parties, was also tested for Hg. The result was, again, below the limit of quantification. The standard form explanation which was provided by Trimega with these later test results was different to that which was being used in 2009. However, the explanation remains, to put it neutrally, confusing. While it refers to the potential effect of endogenous alcohol, alimentary alcohol, and hair products containing alcohol and to the tests being used as markers for chronic high alcohol consumption, it continues to be asserted that FAEs and Hg are only present when the subject consumes alcohol. This latter assertion is not correct. In addition, the witness statements provided on behalf of Trimega, which further sought to explain the test results, went much further than the evidence which I have heard would support. They included the assertion that the mother likely exhibits the characteristics of a very moderate drinker, that the results tend to indicate continued low alcohol consumption, and that interpretative reference ranges have been established to distinguish between chronic alcohol abusers, moderate social drinkers, and teetotalers. None of these assertions were supported by the evidence given at the hearing. The evidence in this case and these conclusions have highlighted the need for the exercise of considerable caution when hair tests for alcohol are being interpreted and relied upon, both generally and particularly in isolation. Further, these conclusions only emerged during the course of the oral hearing. This should not have occurred, as they should have been apparent at a much earlier stage of the proceedings. I regret to say that the hair testing evidence given in this case failed the parties and in particular the children. In his final submissions on behalf of the Guardian, Mr. Clough pointed to the potential consequences for the children in this case of the local authorities' reliance on the results obtained from the hair sample taken in September 2009. He described them as potentially catastrophic. This is not to blame the local authority for such reliance, but rather is a proper reminder of the need for expert evidence to be given in a manner which accords with the principles underlying the practice direction.